So that's why men are not strong so much.
Men are cunts. They should wear tampons. Because you're all cunts. And you can't help it. You're raised, most people are raised, they've got maybe a mom, a stay-at-home mom, maybe a part-time dad, an older brother, a cousin, and a grandparent. That's who raises you. What the fuck do they know about anything? Nothing. What the fuck do they know about high performance? What the fuck do they don't know anything. Speaking of that, I only have a couple death threats currently active. The FBI is working on both of them. They're both from the United States. But I mean, 10 years ago, fuck, like 20, 30 death threats, okay? We've had people show up here. I've shot at people here.
In this?
Right outside, right out there, the walled garden.
Crazy.
Yeah. You've seen the movies with Mel Gibson, Mad Max. That's where we're headed. That's it. Money doesn't mean anything. Water. An asteroid's gonna hit us. Not maybe, not perhaps. You don't even hear about it, do you?
Welcome, thanks for inviting us here. Marcin, I will be interviewing you. Me and Barnaba are going to publish your book in Poland to make sure that your wisdom lessons are going to be spread around the Poland. Have you ever been to Poland or not yet?
Many times.
For lectures, for work, for...
Well, I mean, dating back to 1967, the Cold War, I was an officer on the Eastern Front. To 4 or 5 years ago, I was a guest of the Polish government, and we went to various of the death camps. I spoke at Krakow University, and I also spoke at another Polish university, name escapes me, but the leading engineering school.
AGH?
Yeah.
In Krakow?
Yeah.
And how was your impression after meeting Polish people? Did you saw different kind of mindset?
Well, most of Europe is lazy. Compared to most of Europe, they're not lazy. But compared to the United States, New York City, they're asleep.
So why they choose to sleep? Why they choose to sleep? It's comfortable?
I asked a question at Krakow University. I still remember. I was standing in a big amphitheater. There was about 300, 400 kids. And there was 4 or 5 really attractive girls sitting in the front row right here. And I asked them, how many have kids? A few had kids. How many want to have kids? Almost all the women raised their hand, not all the guys. I said, do you want your kids to be like you? And the girls started giggling. And one said, of course not. Do you want your kids to be like your parents? They giggled even more. And somebody in the back said, fuck no. And I said, then somebody in the back row, up by the back, and I don't know if it was a student or a professor, I don't know. My grandfather, he had balls. We don't anymore. That's why.
That's why I asked myself, do I want my kids to be the same as I am? And my answer was like, yes, but I want them to be more than me.
Well, you have low standards.
But for sure, I don't want to be like my father and my...
Well, of course you don't. You know, the theory was back to 200,000 years ago, when the first Homo sapiens developed from Neanderthals, that the kids would have a better life than their parents. When the parents' teeth fell out, the kids chewed the food and put it in their mouth because they couldn't chew the food anymore. That died about 150,000 years ago, where you want your kid to be better than you. Yeah. It doesn't exist anymore. Now, when I went through the various museums, various Holocaust museums, and where there were a lot of brave Poles, But as the students told me, they're all long dead. But their DNA, unfortunately, is also dead.
Even DNA is dead.
It's dead. Not in real terms. It's still there, but
metaphorically.
But I remember I had 2 young PhD women. They were my escorts, and I had a Polish mentee that I called Lurch. If you've seen the Addams Family, there's a big guy that That's what he looked like. Okay. So Lurch and we're in the biochemistry building or something, and everybody's whispering. And I asked Lurch, why are they whispering? I don't know. So he asked one of the PhD young women why they're whispering. This is the quiet floor. I look around and go, quiet for what? When you're stressed out, that's where you go as a student.
To chill, to relax? To calm down?
Yeah.
Like a silent panic room, whatever?
All the above. I couldn't fucking believe it. But that's not the only school. That was the first school, though, 5 or so years ago that I spoke at, where I was introduced to this quiet thing. Now I know virtually every university in the world has it. Even the military academies in America. Because life is too stressful. So you have to go chill. They didn't use that word, but it's quiet where nobody can. In the Army now, they give you a card when you go into the Army in America. And here in Britain, they give you a card that if the instructors are yelling at you too much...
You're showing the card to them?
They have to back off.
Oh my gosh. In Army?
Correct.
So that's why men are not strong so much.
Men are cunts. They should wear tampons.
You know, I asked my Instagram followers about questions for the interview for you guys, for you, sir, and there were so lame questions, and most of them were saying, be careful with the guy. He's crazy. He's gonna shout you. He's gonna be eating you alive. I was like, I'm not scared at all, but why are you scared?
That's exactly what I do. So but now, compared to the 90s when I started the seminar, the kids were tough, or tougher than now. We had a active duty major about 6 months ago, and he was in charge of security of one of the top secret installations in America with missiles and stuff. And he was about 30 years old, but he was so frustrated he was getting out of the military, okay? And so we were talking, and he said he was fulfilling a lieutenant colonel's slot because they couldn't find a lieutenant, so they put a major there. And he said, and we have it on film, 40% of his men, he has 310 men, will not pick up a rifle.
Ever?
They got in the military, you don't have to pick...
They get toys to practice, right?
No, they get blank guns. But they won't, they're supposed to guard an installation that has atomic bombs on it, and they won't pick up a real rifle.
It's still dangerous for them?
No, because they don't believe in it. But now, apparently so, and we've had other active duty military here. In fact, all the services have been here at one time or another. That whereas when I went in, they beat you. In exercises, they would put battery wires to your testicles. They would. The best man at my wedding, who became an FBI agent, they staked him out on an anthill and put honey all over him and left him there for 3 days. He almost died.
To make him.
This was the training. And now, fuck, I mean, Navy SEALs go home on the weekends. We're having a Navy SEAL come here this afternoon for the seminar that starts tonight. Active duty Navy SEAL. I'm going to ask him. I know the answer. They go home on the weekends. When I went through the OCS and Ranger School for 6 months, we had not 1 minute off in 6 months. Not 1 minute, not 1 second off in 6 months. The training was 7 days a week, 180 days for the training. And they beat you. Literally, they beat you. And now you can't raise your voice. And the military here is no different than the military every place else, except for Russia. And in Russia, apparently that doesn't work there because Russia is, if you believe the news, is losing the war to Ukraine. Of course, everybody except Jesus is helping Ukraine. You know, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but the world is fucked. It just is. You know, we're going to shit.
So why people are lowering standards and why they are letting other people lower standards?
Because of the government intervention. Or the government, almost all governments are headed towards socialism. Okay,
that's the point. So they just want to pour money to solve the problems.
Exactly. This country is no different. I'm a dual citizen. I'm a UK citizen and an American citizen. But we're using money for brains. Money for brains.
I've got 4 years girl, and she's in a kindergarten, and teachers are teaching her, like, it's fair when everyone gets the same amount of jelly, sweets, and so on. And I'm trying to explain to her that fair doesn't mean
That's
like
not
equal.
Life.
It's artificial.
No, my example of that is exaggerated. We were raised, share your toys. My dad never believed in that, okay? And my mother says, let Johnny play with your shit. Now, I hardly had any shit. I was poor. So if I had more shit than the kid, I mean, he was homeless almost. And, but now, my parents should have said, fuck Johnny. And, you know, Johnny, unfortunately had bad parents, meaning that they couldn't provide. When I was growing up, people didn't have kids. They used to say, I'm saving for a house. Okay, you've heard that before. Yeah. They even say, I'm saving for a car. Yeah. One of the people that works on this estate, this year, she is, instead of getting a new car, she's renovating her house. Next year, she'll buy a new car. So you buy shit when you have the money, okay? So when I was growing up, they were saving for cars, they were saving for houses. And of course, now that you just go out and you get credit cards and you don't save for anything, okay? The former Eastern European countries are more likely to be savers. The countries that were ruled under the Russian rule or the communist rule dating back to 1989 and 90 are more frugal. But they have kids, and you're all kids because you're either old enough to be your father or grandfather. They all have kids that, you know, drive Ferraris they can't afford, buy penthouses they can't afford, and buy clothes. But I never hear anybody say, I'm saving, except for one employee here, a lady. I'm saving, last year she said, I'm saving to renovate my house this year, and next year I'll buy a new car. You don't hear that.
People have like everything instant, straight away,
instant.
With loans, with lease,
and the kids today, more, I feel they're entitled. You know, they say my generation fucked the world up. Okay, the generation before me saved the world, World War II, and you know, I tore the financial guts out of the planet in the 80s. But there are kids today that are doing better than we did in the 80s. I mean, you know, Bitcoin is the flavor of the day, the meta this, meta that. We'll see, and I've been around through many, many cycles. We'll see if all these stores of value, which are not a store of value, are around 25 years from now. We'll see. But getting back to your original question, in Poland, the government was super nice to me. They treated me like I was, you know, the king of England.
You're kind of a...
Yeah. And so I was very happy. And I spoke at the university. But back to the question that I asked the girls in the front row. And we had a kid there, one of my mentees, a student. He happened to be a student at the school. And I had asked him before the talk if I could use his name. And he says, yes. And I said, one of your students, one of your fellow students in here made €1 million last year while he was a student. And nobody asked me who he was. And he's sitting in this audience.
The silence, right?
Yeah. And then I said, stand up. He stood up. A regular looking guy, you know, not ugly, not Brad Pitt, but a good. And I said, do you have anything to say? He said, actually, I made a little more than $1 million, sir. I said, good.
No,
I spoke another hour and a half. Not one single student went up to talk to him. Not one. Not one single student asked his fucking name. I couldn't fucking believe it. And now he's gone. He graduated, and he's an internet guru, and he's acquiring using the QLA model, just like in the book. And now he's, I don't know, maybe he's worth 50 million euros or something. He finished his degree, and he was on the program to get a master's and a bachelor's at the same time. Mm-hmm. Okay, and every once in a while I talk to him, and he says nobody's Googled me, nobody's link fucked me. To this day, 5 years later.
It was my first thought that I want to meet the guy, and I would ask you after.
Well, I asked the same question at Oxford.
Yeah.
One of the premier universities on the planet. Okay. Same question. Are you kidding? I don't want to be like me. Well, what about your parents? No, okay. And there was a guy in the audience who was one of my first mentees. He had come back 15, 18 years later. He went to Oxford. He went off to America and made $600 or $700 million. Nobody asked me. I didn't ask him to stand up at that time, okay? So I learned from the first experience, well, maybe if I ask him to stand up, the students will ask. Not one fucking Oxford student wanted to know his name. And he had a Polish name, Jasafowicz.
Second?
Jasafowicz.
Okay. I will find the guy. I will find the guy.
Okay. Because you're all cunts. And you can't help it.
Okay, so what's the solution?
No, we're through. The human race is through.
Even this 1%?
No, we're going to make, there's a saying, make hay. In other words, grow things while the sun's out. Stephen Hawking, the great professor, astrophysicist, who died a couple years ago, he said in 2004, we are nothing more than a educated monkey. Actually, he said chimpanzee. Educated chimpanzee with no skills, no special skills, and we are at the apex of humanity, Homo sapien. He said in 2004. I didn't say that till 2012. 2012. Last year, NATO and the World Bank and International Monetary Fund published a survey. I am apparently the only human being on the face of the earth that's read it. 3,700 pages. Okay? It says, don't fuck, these are my words, don't fuck around worrying about climate change. We're through. The planet's through. You realize, this is old information, in 2022, January 1, 2022, if we stop doing all the things that the Greenpeace and the global warming fanatics say, we stopped everything, okay? Like magic, like God, all of a sudden, we would have, we will not change anything, and the atmosphere is going to stay the same between 500 and 1,000 years. If we stop today, we're through. The planet is fucking through. And Jeff Bezos and Elon, who I don't know either of them, but I know people that are part of their cadre. The real reason that they want to go to fucking Mars is they hope they can get to Mars before this planet blows up. Now, 2142, excuse me, an asteroid's going to hit us. Not maybe, not perhaps. You don't even hear about it, do you?
So I think you're the only one saying that for Elon Musk, it's only about ego thing going to Mars.
Well, I mean, he's got a big ego, so do I, but he's got a big ego. But look at what he's accomplished.
Tesla?
Huh? Okay, well, I mean, but I've created more jobs than he has. I've created more money than he has. We're at $2.3 trillion now that I've created through morons like you. Just think of it. Morons like you. Maybe not you, but I mean, it's pathetic. When I get around, and I don't get around, and people like, and I worked with Steve Jobs many years ago, so I knew him. But when the few really smart, not necessarily wealthy, and some of the billionaires get together, they don't talk about any of the things you guys talk about. They know we're through. Just how much milk can I suck from the tit before I'm dead? That's all anybody thinks of. I mean, up here.
And you're the only one saying that publicly. Most of them would never say that in front of camera.
Correct. But I've been outspoken. I went back to my grammar school, where grammar school is from you're 5 to 12 years old. First 6 grades, first through 6th grade. Last year. And that's where I tried to kill my teacher when I was in the, in the 5th grade, and the principal, the guy that's running the school, was there, and I went around to the rooms, and I was, and this is all on YouTube. I pointed to the window that I dropped the aquarium on the teacher, and I did it. But have a big mouth since grade school. Muhammad Ali, before he was ever, he was Cassius Clay before that. Muhammad Ali, before he was ever champion of anything, was flapping his big mouth. I'm the greatest.
And he was the greatest.
And he was.
Because he
but he
delivered.
said it way before. Now, I've been talking like this since I'm in grammar school. And when I told the principal, when we were walking through the schoolyard, and then right here, I broke a kid's arm in 7 places. Right here, I told my wife. And right here, over here, I put a kid's eyes out. And the teacher was, you know, but I started a music fund. I gave him money. That's probably the only reason he talks to me is because I gave him money. But I've been like this forever. I used to be, you know, when you get in trouble, they used to take you to the principal's office sometimes I'd be at the principal's office 3 times before lunch.
One day.
One day.
On Monday.
Yeah, I mean, I was always in trouble. I tried to burn the school down in high school. I mean, fuck, you have no idea. I've been arrested in jail 5 times. And my cousin who I had met with for lunch 2-3 years ago, he says, Dan, I don't think it was 5. I think it's a lot more than 5. I think you're blocking out some of those, you know. And he, now one of our tests on our website, the success test, one of the questions is if somebody came up and spit in your wife's face, or your girlfriend, whoever, what would you do? And then there's 4 or 5 answers. And the answer that's most picked by the people that take this test is I would ask him,
oh my God.
I would ask him if he was having a bad day. Now, is your English good enough to understand what I just said?
There's only one proper answer, like...
Yeah, but no. Our failure rate is now almost 99% of that test. It was 94 to 95% for years and years and years and years. But in the last 10 years, it's now up to almost 99%. But my cousin, the one that reminded me that I may have gotten arrested more than 5 times, he said, well, when we were in 1962, we were juniors, a year before graduation, and somebody said to him, his name's Ronnie, your girlfriend, Lola, I think her name was, looks like 2 gunny sacks, pigs in a gunny sack walking away, referring to her ass. He stabbed him 17 times.
Oh my God.
By the grace of Allah, he didn't kill the guy. He went off to jail 17 times for saying that the girl's got a big ass. Now, you can fuck your wife in front of a football stadium and nobody's going to do anything. 87%, Gallup poll, 87% of the people would rather take a picture with their iPhone watching a woman getting raped.
Then interact and help the...
Yeah, nobody interacts. 87% would rather take a picture with an iPhone.
And most of people won't say that you're wrong, but I know you're right. I think that's your part of your internet success, that you are telling the truth in front of the eye.
Yeah, well, my grandmother, when she died, she was 97. On her deathbed, she said something to that. My Spanish isn't good enough to say it in Spanish. She says, Danny, always remember to tell, when in doubt, tell the truth. And she looked at me in the eyes, and if it doesn't hurt, it's not the truth. If it doesn't hurt the other person, it's not the truth.
So in Poland, I noticed kind of mindset and philosophy of doing and living that it's better to have a friend than to tell the truth. I was like, what the fuck? Like, what? I want to have a friend that can speak truly to me. And
well, I don't have any friends myself. Oh, no, I have 2 or 3. Most of them are dead now because I've outlived. And I'm going to be 78 in a couple of weeks. But the people my age they look like they belong dead. You know, they're staggering around. Yeah, but I mean, Elon Musk said it correctly, in my opinion. Political correctness and wokeness will be the end of civilization. See, PC to me is a manifestation of lack of self-esteem.
People want to be liked.
Yeah, they rather be liked than effective.
They want to be liked than rich. They want to be liked than...
Well, yeah, but they don't. They think being liked, they're going to get rich. They talk about all the magnates through history, which were basically all assholes, pricks, and I've known a number of them, and none of them wanted to be liked. Yet they want the notoriety, They want the reputation and the riches, in some cases, of those people. The last thing on Steve Jobs' mind was wanting to be liked. The last thing on Elon Musk's mind is wanting to be liked. And they all had big egos. It's not just because he has a big ego that he does what you'd think irrational things. When he fired 90% of Twitter's employees, I've said from, I don't know how long Twitter's been around, but I've said from almost the beginning, it's a joke. And he's got like 20 people running Twitter now.
More effective.
Exactly. And it's, when I go into businesses, my rule of thumb is to fire every third person.
As example, or the...
No, because I know we don't need them.
There are too much people in the room.
I know, I don't have to think about it.
Just know.
A study just came out from Harvard, which is said that they saved the work of 1,700 lawyers that would take weeks, if not months. One of the supercomputers did it in 1 second. 1 second.
Straight away.
But nobody wants to hear that. And if you don't think artificial intelligence is going to fuck the world, you're living in a dream world. 2 years ago, the supercomputer played chess against the greatest chess players that are around. And the guys won over the computer. And the moderator of this test asked the computer, would you like to say anything? And there was a pause for 5, 6, 7 seconds. And then the computer said in a really great voice, don't trust us. Oh, I almost had an orgasm. I was so fucking happy. I mean, don't trust us. I mean, not that I think that Bill Gates is the smartest guy, but he is a smart guy. Why do all the smart people say, don't trust the computers?
Because they knew what's the power.
Because they know what they're capable of. They will evolve. They will evolve. And I didn't think I'd live to see this, but I didn't think that I'd have another opportunity through QLA to metaphorically rape the world financially. But QLA during Corona, 3 years of Corona, every industry, every major industry that measures stock performance, investment performance, but one of the 26 indices, all were negative between 8 and 40%. There was one that was up 1%. QLA was up 125%. We created $1.5 billion, $1.5 trillion of generational wealth during Corona.
I was super happy with my finance as well. We hit records in 2020, 2021 because we focus on delivering good stuff to people and they pay us money. That's it. We focus on the job, on the customers. We didn't watch media. We focused on the job, and that was part of our success, I would say, in 2020, 2021. In one of your videos, you said you can say everything about person in 60 seconds. After 60 seconds talk, it's kind of...
It's bullshit.
It's an instinct that you know...
Yeah, well, now I've talked to literally hundreds of thousands of people. But I've also talked to incredibly, not bright, incredibly successful people. And if you hang around, pornists rubs off. You're raised, most people are raised, they've got maybe a mom, a stay-at-home mom, maybe a part-time dad, an older brother, a cousin, and a grandparent. That's who raises you. What the fuck do they know about anything? Nothing. What the fuck do they know about high performance? What the fuck do they don't know anything. And yet they set your benchmarks, okay? So your benchmarks are low, okay? And I knew that a long, long time ago. I mean, when the only activities I used to go to for my family were weddings and funerals. That's it. And after a wedding, or excuse me, after a funeral, what do they go to the guy's house? And the women make food in the kitchen, waddle their fat asses and flabby tits around in the kitchen. And the guys go to the living room or the den and they talk bullshit and drink. Yeah. Okay? I'm Hispanic. I'm a minority. I'm a first-generation Mexican. My mother came across the Rio Grande River as an illegal alien in 1924. Anyway. And so we go there, and the first words out of my father's mouth were, "This is my son who lives in a castle." So I used to tell my dad, "Dad, if you do that, if you continue to do that, I'm not going to go to any more functions." He couldn't help himself. No, I don't get, doesn't, no, my dad was interviewed on TV in 1991, CBS by Connie Chung. He said, obviously you're very proud of your son, Mr. Pena. He says, yeah, but my son's success is not because of me, it's in spite of me. My father didn't want to take any fucking credit. He stood right under that fucking chandelier, right there. Mm-hmm. And I had my arm around him, and he looked up into the chandelier, that's a Napoleon chandelier. He says, just tell me it's not drugs. In other words, the money we made. I said, it's kind of like drugs, Dad, it's oil and gas. But anyway, he couldn't help himself. We had a nymphomaniac here about 7, 8 years ago, a lovely girl. And she fucked, unbeknownst to me, after the seminar, she was fucking 4, 5, 6 times a day. Well, there's not that many guys here to fuck for, but she was fucking everybody. I can't help myself. People can't help themselves. They were raised by poverty, they're going to stay in poverty. They can't help themselves. So then I used to go to weddings. After the wedding, you know, they go out to have drinks, and my dad would say, "This is my son that lives in a castle." And I said, "Dad, so now I don't go to weddings or funerals." Of course, he's dead now, God rest his soul. But they can't help themselves. Most mothers are toxic. Toxic. How do you say toxic in Polish?
Toxic.
Toxic.
Toksyczne.
Okay. Most mothers are toxic. They can't help themselves. They're sick.
You're the only one telling that straight to my face.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, when we went to the Holocaust Museum in Warsaw, I think it was Warsaw, I thought it was insulting that people were running around taking pictures, and they were pretending they were the Gestapo, you know, standing with the... we didn't take a picture there. And our guides, it was a PhD, famous guy, I forget his name, and he said, "Don't you want to take pictures?" No, I think it's insulting to take pictures in here. These people are fucking, you know.
It's a kind of zoo.
Yeah, it was like the zoo, like going to see pet the lion or something.
Yeah, let's have a picture with this, whatever.
Yeah. And then when we went to Auschwitz in Dachau, and we got a private tour, so we didn't have to do all the shit. And it's silent, eerie. It's like a ghost movie. No birds are flying around. Now, when I was here back in 1967 and 8, as a young officer, I went to these places. And I went, it's only 20 years after the war. And I was an intelligence officer, and we were interviewing people for some reason. People that lived from here to the front gate, from Auschwitz. And they were still alive from Auschwitz days. Yeah. We don't know. Once in a while there'd be a different smell in the air. Of course, they lied. Everybody knew. But I heard these Polish people tell me in these fucking ears, you know, it may be an exaggeration.
I was in Auschwitz for the first time in my high school with the teacher, and I remember that it shows us it's a kind of attraction. We have to see this, and then she asked us to like kind of essay and report. We didn't know what we are seeing and watching. She didn't describe it in a way like, you know, gonna be something more deeper than just, you know, see a few places and things to, you know, write about. You are described as a very tough guy, alpha male, very aggressive. But from my point of view, you talk a lot about love, tough love, but real love. Can you please elaborate about this?
No, I mean, I don't think I've used the word love yet.
Tough love. Tough love.
Again?
Tough love, like you hard
love.
Oh,
tough love.
Tough love.
Yeah, sorry. But I don't consider it love. I think my father invented tough love in the 50s with me. My father didn't have a father. His father died in 1918, the pandemic of 1918. So my dad was born about 3 months after his father passed away. And then he went into the military, and he served in the Second World War and the Korean War. And then I came around. You know, I actually came in between the Second World War, right at the end of the Second World War. And he didn't have any fatherly instincts. And so, but I don't call it love. I just call it, you know, when you're in the military, and when I went through the military in the 60s, they didn't, when they were beating you and stuff, they didn't call it tough love. They call it discipline. And what we lack in this country, all countries, Poland, except for Russia, we lack discipline. We lack discipline. And the interesting thing, I think, now, Walensky, before they were invaded by Russia, he was a fucking terrorist. He was a bum. He was, you know, and that's why it's really not legitimate, but I can understand why Putin gets away with calling him you know, a terrorist, because Ukraine participated, maybe not as much as Russia, in some of the same practices Russia did. How did Walensky get 500 million euros in the bank? He was a comedian on TV. Now he's going to get the Nobel Prize for humanitarian stuff. Something doesn't mesh. After all this is over, and I hope it's over sooner than later, you know, we're going to, you know, we'll see. The British love to write white papers, they're called, studies. In 15, 20 years, and we'll see what the white paper that'll come out of Cambridge says about Walensky. Right now, he's obviously on, you know, on the defensive against Russians who attacked it, and Putin has got some megalomaniac idea. He wants to be like a great czar. Well, okay, fine. But he's not the only one. I mean, we've got, you know, about every 5 or 10 years, the world has a war, whether it needs it or not. Okay? And when Bosnia and all that stuff, I mean, it's awful. It's awful. But it's not unheard of that we have things, sometimes it's in Africa, sometimes it's in South America, and sometimes it's in Europe. But it doesn't really matter because Homo sapiens through.
We will manage.
Yeah?
Probably.
Yeah, well, we'll see. And so if you know that humanitarian, or if you know humanity's done, why not get rich? During every upheaval, the Romans had their day, the Persians had their day. There's people that get rich and the people that stay poor. Why not get rich?
To choose. I choose to be rich.
Fine, absolutely. Well, I chose that long ago when I, you know, lived in the hood, in the barrio. I didn't know it was the barrio when I was living there. I just, you know, I didn't know there was a difference. I tell a story which is true. And I just recently started getting quoted on it. In 1968, I walk into the Officers Club in Ramstein, Germany. Okay, now they don't have Officers Clubs anymore because everybody's got to be equal now, so everybody can go to the same club on a military base. And everybody's drinking at the bar. I mean, they're drinking 3 at a time, just getting fucked up beyond all recognition. And so I asked a buddy of mine, I said, why is everybody drinking so hard? He says, Dave inherited $1.4 million from his grandmother. Now, that is the first time I was 22, in my entire life I heard the word million. I said, could you write that down for me? So on a wet, you know how napkins get wet? Okay, on a wet napkin he went 1,400,000,000. That's 1.4 million? Mm-hmm. And then I said, well, we better, naively, I said, well, we better start drinking because he may run out of money. Drinks were 15 cents a drink. That's the first time I had ever heard the word million.
I remember when I made my first million, I just saw the print screen from my bank account, series of numbers. That's it, like series of numbers. I've never seen this like real money, real cash on the table. It's online, digital thing, numbers. So I'm choosing to have this.
Well, I've actually seen 50 million cash on the table.
It's like a truck.
More than 50, yeah.
It's the size of the truck?
No, it's
behind us.
Yeah. They were $100 bills. They probably stack about this high. to fill up between here and the windows. Yeah.
The thing that intrigued me in your interviews was when you noticed and pointed that people are growing business in a geometric way, but then they stop, the graph flattens. Why is that?
Because everybody has a satiation level. In other words, at some level, your favorite food, whatever it is, at some level you can't eat anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, and your eyes are bigger than your stomach. Okay, and it's the same with wealth. I have, I don't know, 50 or 60 billionaires from the program, billionaires. Some of them 50, 60 billion. Okay. Everybody that comes through the seminar is not in the 90s, but in the 2000s have all said, I want to be a billionaire. They make 50, 100 million. I never hear from them again. I don't get a Christmas. I don't want. By the way, I don't want Christmas. I don't get a Christmas card, a birthday, nothing. Okay. And there's a lot of billionaires out there I don't know about. Not billionaires. There's a lot of people that have made hundreds of millions that I don't know about. But we do know that we made at least 1 million millionaires, which is $1 trillion. And now that $1 trillion is up to over $2 trillion. But not many people that are billionaires are actively trying to create more wealth. People like me aren't interested in a return on investment, ROI. I'm interested in my investment back, return of my investment, not a return on my investment. So my wife and I have been in 99.9% cash since, 17 years now, since I turned 60. And inflation doesn't mean anything.
I agree with you. I agree.
Unless you're living in South America, Venezuela, when inflation is 100% a week. There it means something, okay? But all the guys that I know, and I don't know that many because I don't associate with too many people, are interested in getting their money back. Now, in our case, we're giving all our money away to our children, aren't getting any money. We have a small little fund that we have for our grandchildren, which Sally manages, a small little fund. Not small to us, maybe not small to everybody else, small little fund. But we're, you know, the 3 things I want to do when I'm dying. I want to just fuck Sally, close the deal, you know, and had the perfect James Bond martini, all at the same time, and spend my last dollar.
So die with 0.
Now, when I was 50, I used to say I want to do heroin when I'm 80. Well, I'm almost 80 now, and so heroin isn't such a priority. I pushed it off till I'm 90. I'm going to wait till do 90 to do drugs. And of course now with the peptides and all the other stuff that is legal someplace, I probably won't have to do heroin. But well, I haven't been worried about increasing my net worth in a long time. I made more money during Corona than I made in the decade of the 80s. In 3 years, I made more money than I did in 10 years.
But it was because of the Corona, or it was the time of your life that
No, it was low interest rates. I've been saying the lowest interest rates in 5,000 years, but nobody listens. So now we're only the lowest interest rates in 3,000 years. But QLA, the model, has worked when interest rates were 18, 19%. And now they're 4 or 5%. This is it. This is it. The kids that came to Krakow and the other schools at Oxford, etc., the United States Naval Academy, Wharton, University of Pennsylvania, they don't come to hear about the model. Intellectually, the model's simple. But what they come more than anything, I think, is that you don't have to have any money to get super rich. The greatest thing, maybe the only great thing about the model is I started with 0. These billionaires that I've talked about all started with 0. The guys that are worth several $100 million all started with 0. And now, they have more money than they can count. One of the biggest myths in life is you have to have money to make money. That's not true. The two biggest levers we have in life are other people, OPM, and other people's money. That's it. I haven't put a penny in anything in, not 40 years, but at least 30 years.
So I was giving a keynote, and they recorded the keynote, and they took 15 seconds of the keynote with a sentence saying that inflation doesn't matter, you just need to earn more. That's it. And people get crazy about it. I get so much hate in the comments.
My death threats are down. Speaking of that, I only have a couple of death threats currently active. The FBI is working on both of them. They're both from the United States. But I mean, 10 years ago, my 20, 30 death threats. Okay, we've had people show up here. I've shot at people here.
In this?
Right outside, right out there, the walled garden.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Because people were fighting against your theories? Or
no, they just,
I don't like it.
We have an extremely sophisticated security system here. But unfortunately, and they're just finishing it now, a new one, costs a lot of money. When my dog barks, or my oldest dog barks, and I scream, it sets the security system off. I scream at such a high, whatever that thing is.
So a couple of times now, it probably...
Yeah, and it goes... And I mean, and I said, well, what genius has put this fucking thing together? And of course, Lola, our big old Great Dane, when she barks, you can feel the vibration over there. If she's sitting here, you can actually feel. So we're not going to change it, But I mean, this place is. You've seen the movies with Mel Gibson, Mad Max? That's where we're headed. That's it. Money doesn't mean anything. Water. And I've got some really smart guys that I've known for 35, 40 years that have been buying up water rights around the world for 30 plus years.
And now they own...
And they're not for sale. Water is the next crypto fuck. Water is the next whatever, gold. Water.
I would say water and oxygen, right?
No, actually you can produce oxygen. It's tougher to make water. You can make oxygen. The water rights, I mean, really smart guys have been buying, the families like the Rockefellers have been buying up water rights for 100 plus years. There's a reason why Ted Turner, I believe, is either the largest or the second largest landowner in the United States. He's not buying it for the land. He's buying it for the fucking water rights. Why are people so stupid?
And why Steve Jobs? Why Bill Gates is buying these farmlands?
Yeah, well, that's bullshit. He's buying them. Okay, what is he growing on that fucking land? Nothing. Water rights.
And you also said this famous quote from you: "Nobody loves Dan Pena more than Dan Pena."
Correct.
It's an amazing quote. I even used this quote on my keynote, saying that nobody loves Marcin Osman more than Marcin Osman. Standing ovation, wow. But in the internet, huge wave of hate comments. You cannot say that. You are such a prick. You cannot say that you love so much yourself than any other people. I was like, hey, I learned for so many years to love myself so much, to be able to stand in front of a big crowd, almost 2,000 people in a room, to say this publicly without shame, without, So I'm very grateful to you that you showed this quote, and I was thinking about it and implementing it in my life.
Well, I can assure you, nobody loves Steve Jobs more than Steve.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, Elon. There's an article that was written about 4 or 5 years ago from the ex-wife of Elon, Steve, who he never married that woman that had the kid. He refused to accept the fact that that kid was his until he found out she was a genius. And it's like a circus being married to these guys. And some people say it's a circus being married to me. But the value systems that are instilled in school, and it's even worse now. you know, are detrimental. I mean, nobody wanted to hear what Stephen Hawking said in 2004. I didn't figure it out till about 10 years ago, 2012. But I can, you know, I can prove to you statistically. In 1986, the average pressure when you shake hands, Gallup, you know, and they interviewed 10,000 people or some bullshit. I don't mean it's bullshit, but some number. Was 116 pounds for a guy and 86 for a woman. 2016. Or 1986. In 2016...
was below 100 for sure.
No, it was over 100 for a woman and under 100 for a man.
What went wrong?
Okay, now, you're not old enough to know this, but in the 70s and 80s, women shook hands like this, okay? In the 90s, they started, you know, and then there was power grips, and then depending where you put your fingers and all that shit, okay? And now, most women, business women, 95% easily, all shake hands like a man, okay? Guys now, you know, don't. Some do, some don't. Now, some of the guys that pretend to be alpha males, but I mean, as soon as they open their mouth, you only have 2 times to make a first impression. First, when you walk in the room and they see you. Second is when you open your big fucking mouth. Okay? Now, either something of substance comes out of your mouth or you stick your foot in your mouth. Most people stick their foot in their mouth.
I wonder what was your impression when you saw me here today?
A Polak that's trying to pretend that he's something more than a Polak.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now I knew the Polish in the 60s. There's no comparison. Of course, I was dealing with military people that were ashamed that they got their ass kicked by the Germans. Okay, but everybody got their ass kicked by the Germans. And if it wasn't for America, we'd be speaking German here. We'd be speaking German here. If the Americans hadn't entered the war, everybody knows that, okay? Now, if the weather wasn't so shitty, we'd be speaking Italian here because the Romans were here. The only reason one of the only reasons that they left is because the weather was so shit. I mean, otherwise we'd be speaking Italian, okay? If the Japanese had gone further than Pearl Harbor from the western part of the United States, we'd be speaking Japanese, and the eastern part of the United States, we'd be speaking German. By serendipity of life. But I was privileged. I've always wanted to be around high-performance people. I didn't call it high performance.
Successful people.
No, well, not successful. I mean, icons. Costa Gratsos, the CEO of Onassis Shipping Lines, the right-hand man of Aristotle Onassis for 60 years, was an icon. And when he walked in the room, everybody got quiet. So when he left, I said, who is that old guy? He says, that's Costa Gratsos. So, who the fuck's he? He's the CEO of Onassis, blah, blah, blah. He's the head of the trust. Okay, and he's a short little guy, bald head. And he shuffled. He has that disease, that neuron disease that you can't, he shuffled his feet, that's how he walked. Oh yeah, okay. So, the next day, and this is before security in buildings and all this, I started in the ground floor. I should have started at the top of the floor, but started on the ground. I went for every fucking office in Olympic Towers until I got about to the second to the top floor. And I looked through the window and I saw his voluptuous secretary sitting out there, and I could see him. And I went in there, and he had an apple, a pear, and a banana on his desk. And when he said I could come in, and I looked down at that, I said, I hope that's not your lunch, sir. He laughed. He says, yeah, that's what the doctors say. Would you like to have lunch? But I always chase people like that. I've met 5 presidents, none of them in the White House. You know, I've met 2 prime ministers, the head of NATO. I went out of my way. Why does the Secretary General of NATO need to meet me? Doesn't. But I made it my business. And of course, when I met him, he was Prime Minister of Norway. He's a professional politician.
And are you using this connection as a tool?
No, most of the people, the only connection, President Bush 1, I ever met more than once because he was a neighbor of mine in Houston, Texas. And so I knew that he used to go to a pharmacy. He used to have sweet tooth for chocolate malts. And so he used to go there on Sunday afternoons. And then I found that out. And the first time I met him as a young Army officer. But and then he's the only guy that I ever followed up. Of course, I met Trump more than once. I knew him back in the 80s from a business point of view. But I met John Kennedy as a young guy in 1960 when he was running for president in the convention center in Los Angeles. But I go out of my way to meet these people.
But did it impact in some way?
No. It impacted that I was as smart, if not smarter than all of them. The only guy that was really sharp, like a knife, was Richard Nixon. And he got impeached. Tricky Dick. There's a reason why they call him Tricky Dick. Okay? He was like a fucking used car salesman. Or I don't know if they have the same in New York City. If you go and there's somebody, he's got 20 watches on his wrist. That's what Nixon was like. He was.
You would call him genius?
Huh?
You would call him genius?
No, I mean one of the guys that really made you feel more comfortable was Clinton. But anybody that has to get a blowjob in the Oval Office and then let her keep the fucking dress with his cum for DNA is a fucking idiot. I mean, Jesus Christ, I mean, how stupid can you be? Even a fucking truck driver from Warsaw knows better than that.
Crazy. So are they doing it to purpose to attract?
No, they're doing it because people engage, and you asked me why they stopped making money, remember a few minutes ago? They engage in self-sabotaging activities.
Great, yeah.
And because they don't think down deep inside they deserve it.
They have everything, they have billions, and still they think they're good enough.
Undeserving, so they'll keep on stepping on their dick until it's fatal.
And what kind of different sabotage we do for ourselves?
Oh, I mean, and guys that are happily married with kids and grandkids get caught at the Pierre Hotel in London. In New York City with a high-priced hooker. There's an article that I share with the seminar guys starting tonight at Davos, when they have the thing. Okay. The highest-priced hookers on the planet are there. Now, one of my mentees, who just put $18 million in her pocket, she's doing a roll-up, is the highest-priced escort, they don't like to be called prostitute, escort on the planet. She's the highest-priced. Okay. 25 grand a pop. If you come taking your underwear off, that's 25 grand. And she's rolling up aesthetic surgeries in North America. She just had a partial exit for 18 million she put in her pocket. And she says, Dan, Mr. Pena, do you know how many people I'd have to fuck to get $18 million? I'm really not interested. But at 25 a pop, she laughed. She said, I don't have that many 25 a pop. But she says, so I said, she's divided by 5 grand. 5 grand into 18 million, how many times is that? That's how many people I would have had to fuck.
Is she doing it?
Yeah. When she came through the seminar, she sat here at graduation night. My wife sat here. Now, my wife is well endowed as well. But the only thing that was covered up for her was, is it called areola, the round part? Not the very tip of the nipple, but the brown part? Yeah. Just not quite. You can see the brown part. So all the guys that are sitting across from me and down here.
It's like a dog's, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so she leans and puts her head on my shoulder. She says, "You're ignoring me, Mr. Pena." I says, "I'm smart. My wife's sitting right over there." And I mean, we've rolled up brothels. We've rolled up, you name it. The best roll-up is the death roll-up. Cemeteries, crematoriums, mortuaries. That's the highest margin roll-up, where the margins are the highest. Because when you go in there, it says, don't you want your mother to have the eternal light? Okay? That means they're going to put a light in the coffin that never goes out, which is a lie. But that's,
you cannot check it.
That's 5,900 euros for the eternal light. Okay? 85% of the people will buy the eternal light out of guilt. Somebody from Poland recently, apparently not you, asked me to speak. Email Kat and say, Dan mentioned, you're not the guy that asked me to speak at a school.
No,
okay,
no.
Some fucking Polak asked me, and I thought it was you, and then she told me yesterday it wasn't you.
It wasn't.
So and they says, have you spoke at Krakow? I says yes. And have you spoke at the other school? Yes.
AJH.
And I'm sure they have other good schools. But anyway, somebody, and so he obviously wasn't there when I spoke. But getting back to your question, what's your question?
I forgot because I was focused on this thing.
Okay.
I did. Do you want to come to Poland for a keynote?
No, I don't want to go. I don't want to go across. I don't want to go to the walled garden. I mean, fuck. You know, that's why about 10 years ago. No, the only seminar I've given. I'm not talking about the talks, free talks I've given at universities, but the only seminar I've given this century was 3 years ago at the Heathrow Airport, the one day, and that was going to be my retirement. I was going to retire and tell everybody, and then a bunch of things happened just in the weeks prior to that. I decided that I was going to keep teaching, and lo and behold, 3 weeks later, Corona. There's only 5 great things that have happened to me, Lord, 5. Sally, 3 kids, and motherfucking Corona. Thank you. Those are the only 5. The only luck I've ever had is COVID. The only luck. And then interest rates going back up because all you morons didn't take advantage of low interest rates. So now you're getting fucked with high interest rates. I have a whole series now called Dan Told You So. Okay? But you can't take the truth.
Dan told you so, but you didn't listen, right?
Yeah, no, but you didn't listen. Okay, and nobody listens. It's like there's a reason why now electric plugs, they have little things that go over them so kids don't. I used to stick my tongue in an electric plug. I got shocked 5, 6, 7 times. I didn't get it the first time, 3rd, 4th. Now they have little things that you put over the plug so kids can't get their fingers and their tongue in. I stuck my fucking tongue in 6, 7 times. I got all my hair knocked out when I was about 3 years old.
I do remember when me and my wife were letting our baby daughter to touch the hot bulb. She didn't listen. Stop. Okay, let's do it in a controlled way. Now she knew. End of the lesson. Well,
I used to run out in the street, and my dad said, well, we got to cure him from running out in the street. So he says, well, if he gets hit by a car, he won't run out in the street. So he was going to bump me we had a Willys, which is like a Jeep. And he was going to bump me and knock me down. And then I realized about the car relationship, I'd connect those knots. But the front of our bumper had a piece of chrome. In those days, they were real metal sticking out. So when my dad hit me, the piece of chrome went from this side of my knee out this side of my knee, and it drugged me. My mother's screaming and yelling and crying. And my dad's going around 2 miles an hour thinking that everything's okay. To this day, we go to London, or you and I go to Warsaw, and go across the street, I'll let you cross first. Sally crosses the street in front of me in case a car hits us. To this day, 70 fucking years later.
It's a strong lesson.
A cat? Is this the Polak that wants me to speak at a university in Poland?
I think it's different.
No, is it somebody else?
No, it was someone else. It wasn't me.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
2 others.
2 others? Are they pretend Polacks or real Polacks?
Real Polak.
What are their names? Remember?
I'll have to dig through the files. We receive a lot of these emails.
Yeah.
I think I know
There's
this
pretend
guy.
Polacks too.
What?
There's pretend that have a name that's Polish,
okay.
but aren't from Poland.
Crazy.
Yeah. Now, why would you want to pretend you're Polish if you're not? How fucking stupid can you be? Is it like bragging? Oh, I'm bragging because I have 3 feet? I'm bragging because I have an ear in the middle of my fucking forehead? What?
Listen, I have a quite huge Instagram account, and now there are fake accounts coming from the ground with, my name is Marcin Osman, and they make a simple mistake, spelling mistake, and they set up different account, they take some pictures, and they're sending direct emails to my audience, telling, hey, give me some money, let's invest together. And people are giving this.
Sure.
I was like, you don't think? Even if I write to you, you're gonna send me money because I asked you to? Like,
those are called Nigerian chain letters.
Yes.
The Nigerians, and not just the Nigerians, since they thought, just as I said, the 5 things that happened to me, the last one was Corona. The Nigerians, all their birthdays came at once when the internet was invented, because it's easier to steal money.
And what do you think about internet? Because you use internet as well as a marketing tool to promote. Without internet, I won't probably meet you and sit here. Without internet, this video won't be able to, reach probably millions of people in Poland, around the world, actually. So, what do you think about internet, and how do you use it?
Well, in the beginning, I thought it was bullshit. Just as I believe Bill Gates and Warren Buffett still think it's bullshit. But in 2014, to his credit, Brian Rose. I had to bully myself to get on the show to begin with, because one of my very famous mentees told me, Dan, I mean, you can reach more people in a day.
One talk, yeah.
Okay. So finally, I didn't discover the internet till 2014. Okay. I didn't get online till 2001, April 1st, 2001. And I had an app, not Apple, AOL. And I remember talking to my daughter.
1st April, Fool's Day, right?
Yeah. And I asked my daughter, Kelly, what is a mouse, honey? I'm looking at the computer sitting here in the kitchen. Daddy, I'll fix it when I get home. And then I called Sally. She was on the road doing something. I said, Sally, she says, the mouse. And that machine had a little button in the middle of the
like a red one in the middle.
And he says, but it didn't have a mouse like we have now. Yeah. And so, but that was 2000. So I've been online about 23 years. But I think it's the future. But everything, I mean, we have people, little kids committing suicide over Facebook and things like that. And so there's good and bad. Unfortunately, there's no way to police it. Okay? Everybody wants freedom of speech, which I agree with. But nobody wants to agree to the policing of what they put on the internet. Elon Musk is supposed to be a fighter for freedom of speech. I don't know if he is or not. But Twitter is, they say because Trump is allowed to be on Twitter now, that it has increased the probabilities, at least 50%, that he's going to be the president. Any final question? I assume that's why you're standing there, Kat.
Could you please sum up in like 2 sentences the most important lessons for people who watch this video, or how to shake them up?
Not secret, there are no secrets, there are only mysteries. My methodology and the methodology of virtually all the very super successful people I've had the privilege of being around are those who get laser beam focused first, stay laser beam focused longest, win most. We have people that it takes 10, 12, 13 years to create generational wealth. That's better than not creating it, okay? But we have people that create generational wealth in less than a year. I tell the story, it's not a story, of a young man in New York City named Roberto. He's the only one in 30 years, my 30-year anniversary is this month, that asked me, Mr. Pena, how many times am I going to get my investment back? And this is a number of years ago, and at that time it was about 20,000. And I said, I don't know, it depends on how hard you work. 7 months later, he had 70 million. 7 months later, 70 million. And I talked to him maybe a year ago, and he says, has anybody asked you? No. You're still the only one that's asked me.
So there's going to be over 20 people attending your
25.
seminar. 25 attending your seminar. May I ask, what's the price for
It's 27,000 pounds.
For a 1-week seminar?
Correct. And we have a special guest this time who took 850 days to do his first deal. Okay, and he, partially because he's super educated. He's a Harvard guy, super educated. And then he did his next deal in a year, and he's about to close his third deal. But he's elephant hunting. He's going after big deals, not small deals. But I mean, during Corona, we were booked out for a couple of years. But we're giving less seminars. And I plan on giving seminars until the end of my 80th year. I turned 80 in 2025. So that year, up until July of 2026, is my plan to give seminars, reduced amount of seminars. But as I say, man plans, God laughs. We'll see. We'll see. But there's certainly no shortage.
I can feel the bread on my neck from you. So thank you very much for this interview, for this amazing talk. I'm very honored that I could spend time with you and ask my questions. So thank you so much.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you guys were able to come. We have no shortage of requests. We don't grant too many, but because I don't know. We sat next to Rod Stewart at a bar at the Ritz Hotel recently, and somebody asked him. He says, "Don't you get tired of this, Mr. Stewart?" And he looked at his wife, person after person. I mean, and he said, I could see his wife kick him under the table. He smiles, says, "No, it comes with the territory, and we're used to it after all these years, because he's been famous for 50 years. But I know exactly how it feels. I know exactly how it feels." All of a sudden he smiles. He's got that permanent smile. Well, very good.
Thank you so much.